What's up, guys? K-357 coming to you this morning. Today is Tuesday, July the 24th. I'm going to mention to you just a little bit this morning about what you can expect if, and I hope and pray that you never are involved in a shooting, but if you're involved in a shooting, what sort of to expect after that. Of course, you know, I'm Kevin Dodson, K-357. I got 15 years law enforcement experience. It was kind of a second career for me. And also a firearms instructor, law enforcement firearms instructor, and NRA firearms instructor. And the reason I'm telling you all that is because I'm going to speak on a subject matter about what I just mentioned about, of course, you know, we teach concealed carry. We've taught probably about 13,000 plus students in concealed carry since March of '09, and you know, we're a full service firearms training company. We do anything and everything from beginner on up. We've got 4 instructors on our staff, myself with a law enforcement background, Chris Walker with an extensive military background, Jeff Wiggins with a military background, and then my wife Lori Ann, and she's also an NRA pistol instructor. But anyway, so getting on to what I'm going to talk about, because I'm going to do 2 videos this morning before I open. One is on this subject here, and 2 is on a few guns that we got in it. I think you'll think pretty cool. I had an individual come into my store, said that he experienced this. He basically said that he was a first responder and he rolled up on a motor vehicle accident, and when he got out, this machete-wielding person started coming toward him in a threatening manner with the machete, and the first responder asked him to drop it, you know, or stop. And he continued a little bit more toward him, and the first responder said that, hey, you know, I came close to pulling the trigger on this guy, shooting this guy. I mean, he was crazy. Well, some of the law enforcement got there, and they said, well, you know, it's kind of a good thing that didn't happen, or else we'd probably have to be processing you. And he was like, what do you think they meant by that, by processing? Because he said, I sort of took it that I'd be arrested. And I think the average person would think that being processed means that you would be arrested. Well, first of all, if that happened the way that he said it did, and I have no doubt to not believe him, he's a customer of ours, and I've known him for a little while, and he just didn't come in here and make that stuff up, I don't believe. But I said, of course you would have had the right to have used deadly force, and no, that doesn't mean that you're going to be arrested. If I as a law enforcement officer, if I'm arresting you out there on scene, that means I'm charging you with something. Okay, so my big niche in law enforcement was traffic enforcement, especially DWI enforcement. You know, so if I stopped you on suspicion of DWI, ran you through a series of field sobriety tests, and then at that time I formed an opinion that you were impaired and unable to operate a vehicle safely, then I'd say, you know, Mr. Jones, this time I'm finding probable cause to arrest you for driving while impaired. If you will, go ahead and turn around, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for driving while impaired. You're under arrest, okay? I'm advising him what I'm charging him with, okay? It's the same thing with the shooting thing. If we roll up, when I say we, I mean law enforcement roll up on scene, of course. And this video could really go long, and I may do a more in-depth video on it, but I'm just kind of giving you the meat and potatoes of it. If there's overwhelming evidence there that you did not react appropriately, okay, that you did not react appropriately, then yes, you may very well find yourself being charged with a crime. Different levels of, you know, involuntary manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter, second-degree murder, first-degree murder. Many times law enforcement will confer with the district attorney's office, you know, what the appropriate charges, if any, will be. But listen, also, if there's overwhelming evidence there, and then don't get me wrong now, of course, if you're involved in shooting, there's going to be an investigation. Okay, so certainly there could be charges brought later. They don't necessarily have to be brought out there on scene. Okay, they could be brought later if you screwed up and did something wrong. However, you'd be surprised how many students that say, hey, listen, I always heard, and I'm trying to think who they always heard this from, but I always heard that if you're involved in a shooting that you're going to be put in handcuffs and be arrested. you may very well be detained. I know I've been on shootings before, and when we got there on scene, there was so much hysteria there. We were trying to, first of all, make sure that the scene was safe and that the bad guy wasn't there anymore. If he was, that we could take him into custody. But I've been there before where we detained everybody. Detained means that everybody was put in handcuffs temporarily, and of course some maybe were left permanently, not permanently, but maybe they were taken into custody after the investigation on scene. But most time what we would do is we would detain everyone. There's a big difference in being detained and being arrested, okay? Detained, you're not charged, but you're not free to leave. You're not free to leave, all right? Charged means you're under arrest, okay? You are going to be taken downtown and you are going to be processed. So, and also, let me throw something else in there. For some reason or another, there's some students out there that think that just because you have a concealed carry permit, and this is why some of them won't take concealed carry. So those who've been thinking about concealed carry, hopefully you'll feel differently about this after I make this statement. But some people think just because you got a concealed carry means that you're going to be judged differently. You're going to be scrutinized differently on a shooting scene. That is absolutely not true. Why would it be true? The only difference is you're either open carrying, which open carry has been legal since 1921, all right, long time. Of course, open carry means the gun is in a holster and it's in plain view for all the world to see. Totally legal, right? As long as you're lawfully allowed to possess a firearm. But whether you're open carrying or concealed carrying has absolutely nothing to do with whether you had the right to use deadly force or not. It's all about being able to articulate that your life was in imminent danger of death or serious bodily harm or sexual assault. And if you can articulate that, that's what it's all about, okay? That's what we're going to look at when law enforcement gets on scene, when investigators get on scene, okay, is did you have the right to do that? They're not going to say, well, let's see, first of all, does Mr. Jones got a concealed carry permit? Oh, well, if he does, then he's going to be judged differently. No, you're not. Should you be held to a higher standard? Absolutely. And that's because as a concealed carry holder, you've got usually more knowledge than the average Joe out there, all right? Because you sat through an 8-hour plus class and received all this knowledge on the law, as far as when you can use deadly force, when you can use force, and so on, and when you can't in North Carolina. All right, but listen, whether you got a concealed carry or not makes absolutely no difference. Now, of course, I highly recommend that you don't give a statement, all right? I would highly recommend that you would contact an attorney first, or you have an attorney that you can call and let them make that statement for you, or sit there with you while you're making a statement, or be there with you while you write that statement out, right? You can be cooperative, but also look after yourself and look after your rights. Don't say anything that might incriminate yourself. In fact, the least you say, the better, all right? And besides, you're going to remember more details about that shooting in the subsequent hours after, 12 hours after, 24 hours after, and so on. All right, so immediately after the shooting, it's going to be a blur. I mean, you just experienced a life-changing event, something that you're never going to forget, all right? So you don't want to go running your mouth, when you may say stuff that could incriminate you, not meaning to, but it could. May not even be a true statement, may not even be correct. Like I say, people react in all different kind of ways when they're involved in a shooting, okay? But getting back to what I was talking about, I just want you to know, and I'm going to cut this video off and go on to talking about a few guns. I'm going to do that in a separate video. But listen, because you're involved in a shooting doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be arrested, okay? If you're being arrested, that means you're being charged with a crime. All right, but like I said, if you mess up now, then you very well could be charged with a crime. You could be detained. If you're in a situation where there's multiple people there, just cooperate with the officers. If you haven't done anything wrong, then you will be detained. That is a brief time. All right, that doesn't mean you're going to be under arrest, but you're not free to leave, okay? All right, so if you want to make any comments down below, I appreciate it if you'd subscribe, and if you like the video, hit the like button. But if you got comments, throw them in there. I'd be glad to respond to them, because I could really talk about this so much more in detail, but I just wanted to kind of hit the meat and potatoes of that. That there are folks out there that Hey, listen, I don't want you to, obviously being too quick on the trigger could land you in jail, but not being quick enough on the trigger could get you hurt or get you killed. All right, so that's just another reason why I'm a big fan of concealed carry, because you do learn the laws, okay, and it gives you a good working knowledge of when you can use deadly force and when you can't in North Carolina. All right, so I'm going to move on. Like I said, throw me some comments down there if you got any comments about this or questions or what have you. So, till I see you next time, stay armed, stay safe. K-Dot 357 signing off.